Continuing with multi-step equations. When doing multi-step equations, you want to first do the distributive property, and the distributive property will have parentheses in the problem. If there's a number on the outside of parentheses, you will need to take that number and multiply it to everything inside the parentheses to remove the parentheses. The next step would be to combine like terms. So like terms are when they are on the same side of the equal sign. And when you combine them, you're simply adding or subtracting the coefficient. Like terms can also be constants, where you would need to simplify by doing the arithmetic. So again, like terms have the same variable with the same exponent, and how you would combine them would be to add or subtract the coefficients. The next step is when you have variables on opposite sides of the equal sign. Well, when the variables are on opposite sides of the equal sign, you need to get them to one side. Doesn't matter which side you choose, but you have to move the one variable to the other. And whenever you're moving, you always have to do the opposite of what the sign is in front of the variable. So you have to move, you have to do the opposite. Once you've done the above steps, you will have either a two-step equation or a one-step equation. And with a two-step equation, you're going to undo the addition or subtraction first, and then you'll undo the multiplication or division, whatever's attached to the variable. So here's an example. The first thing we want to do here is the distributive property. So you're going to take that 2 and you're going to multiply it to everything inside the parentheses. So I end up with 24 minus 4x. You always want to double check your arithmetic before moving to the next step. So I'm going to bring down the equals 8x. Now I see I have variables on opposite sides of the equal sign, but what I need you to notice here is that 8x is already by itself. So you want to move to that side when you move that 4x over. So isolating the variable, if we were to move the 8x over to the 4x, we would end up with 0 on that side. And it's important, if you choose to go in that direction, that you put the 0. Otherwise, our equation will not equal anything. I chose to move the 4x over, and because it's minus, I added it to both sides. And I'm left with 24 equaling 12x. And now I need to solve for x. 12's attached, that's multiplication. The inverse would be division. I divide both sides by 12, and I get that x equals 2. Pause and try. Again, you want to double check your distributive property, making sure you distribute it all the way through. We end up with 6x minus 9 equals 9x. Now, because 9x is on the one side by itself, I'm going to move the 6x over to that side by subtracting, because 6x is positive. I'm left with a negative 9x equals 3x. And then I'm dividing through by 3, and I get my x variable equals a negative 2. Pause and try. Again, I'm going to do the distributive property first. 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times x is going to be minus 7x. And then I'm just bringing the other side down. Now, it doesn't matter which direction you choose to move in, but we need to get the x's together first. I chose to move the 3x over to the 7x. Now, because it's minus 3x, I have to add 3x to both sides. But be careful here, because I have a negative 7x plus 3x, which is going to give me a minus 4x, equals 26. And now I have a two-step equation. I'm going to subtract the 14, and I'm going to be left with a negative 4x equals 12, and I'll divide through by a negative 4, and my answer is x equals a negative 3. Now we have a multi-step equation where we have to combine like terms. So first step here is you want to clean up each side. And to clean up each side, you need to combine the like terms. So on the left hand side I have like terms, the 4x minus the 2x. So I'm going to simplify that by subtracting 2 from 4 and I get 2x. And I'm just bringing down the minus 5 equals. On the right hand side I see I have 4 plus 3 that can be combined and I get 7 plus the 6x. Now that I have both sides cleaned up, now I can start moving. I want to move to get the variables together. And again, it doesn't matter which side you choose to move to. I'm choosing to move the 6x over, and because it's positive, I have to subtract it over. And I'm going to end up with a negative 4x minus 5 equals 7. And now we got the two-step equation. I'm going to add 5 to both sides. I'm going to be left with a negative 4 equals 12. And then I'll divide through by that negative 4 and get my solution, x equals a negative 3. Pause and try. I'm combining like terms. 7x minus 2x is 5x. Bringing down the minus 3 equals, and I combine like terms. I end up with 2 plus 8 is 10 minus the 8x. And again, it doesn't matter which direction you move in. I'm choosing to move the 8x over to the 5x. It's minus 8x, so I have to add it over. And I'm left with 13x minus 3 equals 10. And now it's a two-stepper. I'm adding 3 to both sides. Then I'm going to divide through by 13. And I get my x equals 1. Now here's an example where we have distributive property, combined like terms, variables on opposite sides. So we have every step involved here. So remember, the distributive property is always the first property that we need to do. So I'm going to take the distributive property and always stop for just a sec to make sure that I multiplied correctly. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 6 is 12. I bring down the minus 3x. And I'm doing the distributive property on the right hand side. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 12 is 48. And I'm just bringing down the minus 9x. Always double check your distributive property to make sure that you did not miss anything. And then the next step is to combine like terms. And the combined like terms are when they're on the same side of the equal sign. So on the left hand side I can combine the 10x and the minus 3x, and I'm going to get 7x, and I'm bringing down the minus 12. And it's going to equal, and I can combine the 4x and the minus 9x, which is going to give me a negative 5x, and I bring down the plus 48. Now I need to get the variables on one side of the equal sign. And in this case, I chose to move the 5x over to the 7x. And because it's negative 5x, I added 5x to both sides, and that's where the 12x comes from. And I have the minus 12 equals 48. Now I'm a two-step equation. I'm going to add 12 to both sides, and then I'm going to divide through by 12, and I get x equals 5. Pause and try. Be careful with your distributive property here. It's a negative 5 that you're distributing. Negative 5 times x is a negative 5x. A negative 5 times positive 5 is going to change that to a minus 25. I do the distributive property on the right. I get 3x minus 6 minus 1. Now I'm going to combine like terms, and the like terms are constants. I have 2 minus 25, which is going to give me a minus 23, and then I have a negative 6 minus 1, which is going to give me a minus 7. I'm going to get the variables together. I chose to move the 5x over to the 3x, and I'm left with a negative 23 equals 8x minus 7. And now you add 7 to both sides, and you divide through by 8, and you get your solution, x equals a negative 2. Now in this example, again, it's a multi-step equation. I'm going to do the distributive property first. So I distribute that 7, and I get 7x minus 21. And then I'm going to combine like terms. And when I combine like terms, I have 4 minus 21 will give me a negative 17. Now you see I have a 7x minus 17 equals 7x minus 17. Well, when I get the variables together, I subtract 7x from both sides. X goes away. There's no longer a variable. So when something like this happens, when the variable is eliminated and the number on both sides are equal to each other, in this case, negative 17 equals negative 17, then there's infinite number of solutions. Infinite number of solutions. That means that I can have any number for x, and this equation will always be true. So you would either answer infinite solutions, sometimes it's all real numbers, but when the variable's eliminated and this number equals the same number, then it's infinite solutions. Now look at this example. I do the distributive property, always double check your arithmetic. 4 times x is 4x, 4 times 2 is 8. And then I'm going to combine like terms here. When I combine like terms, I end up with 7x plus 8. And again, I move the 7x over. 7x minus 7x is 0. So the variable gets eliminated. But now we have 8 equals 11. That doesn't make sense. 8 can never equal 11. And because 8 can never equal 11, we're never going to be able to get a solution for x that will ever make this work. So therefore, if your variable is eliminated and the number does not equal the other number, or they're different numbers, there's no solution. So it's really important that you understand these concepts. Pause and try. Again, you did the distributive property here. We combined like terms. We ended up with 3x minus 9 equals 3x minus 17. And when I subtract 3x from both sides, the variable's eliminated. And I get a negative 9 equals a negative 17. This is a false statement, so there's no solution. Pause and try. We're going to do the distributive property. Always double check your arithmetic. Negative 2 times x, negative 2 times 3, negative 6, negative 3 times x, negative 3 times 4 is a negative 12. Combine like terms here. We get a negative 3 minus 10 and a negative 3 minus 10. When I get the variables together, the variables are eliminated, and I'm left with a negative 10 equals a negative 10. This is a true statement. Therefore, I can use any number for x, and this will always work. Therefore, we have infinite solutions.